The goal for this next little 45-minute block is for me to zip it and say as little as possible so you can hear from our EVS graduates. So all of these people are, almost all them students, they're not students anymore, they are grown adults. But our previous students are going to talk with you about their experiences. So I'm just going to let you guys introduce yourselves, okay? So there's a mic in front of you. The rules in my brain is I'm going to pose a topic or a question, and feel free to dive in and answer it. If it's not something you want to answer, you don't have to. So I'm not going to put you on the spot. So I'll pose a question. We'll have a little dialogue. We can have some back and forth with parents if you guys have questions about what they're saying, and that's kind of the roadmap of this session. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves so that I don't talk over you. So y'all grab a mic and just popcorn right out.
Would you like to start?
Yeah.
You want to go?
Sure.
Okay, we're starting left or right? I think we're doing
Thank you.
it right.
Hello, everybody. My name's Alexis. I'm 18 years old. I'm visually impaired.
So you guys can tell us a little bit about your education and employment experience, as much about your visual impairment as you would like to share.
Okay, so let me tell you what I have. I have optic nerve damage in both of my eyes, and in my left eye, I have braille damage. Recently, I just participated in the Vision's Rehab Center, where they train you with technology, mobility, and VRT, which is basically like cooking and safety. I also managed to get an internship there, and that's pretty much it.
And that internship, tell me what you're waiting for now, please.
What?
What are you waiting for after the
At the
internship?
moment, I'm waiting for BEP, which is a business program. It stands for Business Enterprise Program, where I hopefully I'm going to try to own my own business and run it too.
Can you say a little bit more about BEP?
Such as what they
Well, what is it they're preparing you to do, and how are they doing it?
For the moment, I'm waiting to receive a call so I can get my evaluation. It's a mental and physical evaluation to make sure I don't have any mental disabilities, such as Down syndrome, and to see if I'm physically capable of doing certain tasks.
Okay.
And then after that, I'll proceed to take a few online courses, such as Safe Serve, which is basically serving food safely. And I'm assuming learning how to, what's the word? Like, not just store, preserve it. That's one of the programs. And then I'll have a 1-month internship where I'll be trained and to see if I'm capable of doing the job.
And if you are capable, what will the commission do?
Well, after I'm done, they should hopefully give me a loan. Back then, it used to be $8,000. I'm not sure the amount now, since that was 30 years ago. Yeah.
And if they give you the loan, what do you do?
They'll help me find a location, and with that loan, I'll buy the resources that I'll need to open up either my stand, vending machines. They no longer do newspaper stands, since that's outdated. But those are a few things that they have at the DEP program.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, come talk about it.
Gabby?
Yes, okay. So, like I said, my name is Gabriella, but but you can call me Gabby. I actually just recently graduated from St. Francis College, and I was a communications and digital media major. I'm actually in the process right now of creating my own business, which is actually in motivational speaking. So I've been working really hard on that, just like building up a website, finding more speaking opportunities, networking. So if you are looking for a speaker, if you know anybody that's looking for a speaker, please feel free to find me after this and we can connect. And yeah, I was working for the American Foundation for the Blind for a little while, where I was testing websites and mobile apps for accessibility. And now I'm applying to more jobs currently. And yeah, so that's kind of my little spiel.
Gabby, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you just, if you want, can you just tell us a little bit about your vision journey and how that happened?
Okay, so I have optic atrophy, which is I actually developed a tumor on my optic nerve at the age of 18 months old. And so it spread from my left eye to my right eye, causing me to lose all of my vision. And as I like to say, I don't allow my disability to define me, because that's not what that's not who I am completely. And so losing my vision, I actually went to a lot of the programs that we mentioned here earlier, like a lot of I know there was like pre-college programs and things like that helped me to prepare for college. So it really allowed me to build up my independence, and also having amazing mobility instructors like Ms. Pena and Satya to help along the journey. So.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Arturo Soto. First, I just want to say that I am thrilled to be here with all of you today, and I'm looking forward to developing a great discussion. Before I tell you a little bit about my personal life, I want to tell you a little bit about my visual journey. Relative to some of my peers, I am new to this odyssey. I lost my vision 3 years ago to a genetic condition called Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. I know that can be a mouthful, so LHON for short. And basically I started losing my vision first in my left eye. It started with a white cloud in my central vision that then spread to my right eye. And before the year was over, in a couple months, I had lost my central vision, and my right eye was progressive. At this point, I've lost vision in my right eye, but I still have little peripheral vision in my left eye.
How old were you?
I was 17 when I started losing my vision, and it just so happened that I started noticing on my 17th birthday on that very same day. So a little bit about me is I am currently a college student. I am also an employee. I have 2 jobs, one at a nonprofit organization where I'm an administrative assistant, and I also work at a high school in an internship as a post-secondary advisor, advising students on college and just post-secondary paths. Besides that, I'm also very active in my campus. I am the vice president of the Committee for Disabled Students at Queens College, where I attend school. And I'm also the founder and president, along with Ms. Diane Pena, who's the coordinator of the EVS Blind and Low Vision Student Empowerment Group. And it's, sorry, I had a whole brain fart right there. And it's a partner group, which is the EVS Blind and Low Vision Parent Support Group. So it's 2 groups that Ms. Pena and I began with the hopes and with the aspiration of, bringing not only preparing students for their, independent lives, and not only prepare them with the advocacy skills and empowerment skills that they will need, but also, create a bridge between parents and their children that, can better connect them in an understanding and empathetic way. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Arturo.
So I'm the last one that's Gonzalez. I'm Laisha Gonzalez. I'm 22 years old, the older one in the group. But I'm so happy to be here, as my peers have mentioned. To start, I would like to mention how I started my vision journey and where I am right now. I have lupus, which is an autoimmune disease, which caused me to lose my vision 5 years ago. It started gradually. It first began with me seeing little lights or bursts of color throughout my vision, and I started losing my vision gradually after that. I have severe retina damage in my left eye and also some in my right eye, which is the reason why I'm legally blind today. As far as my personal journey, I recently graduated Bronx Community College. I have an associate's in performing arts, and I'm currently professionally working as an actress and singer, as well as an internship that I had recently at the Lincoln Center, which also finished last year. I am also working on my social media presence and creating content for people with disabilities and creating awareness. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. We have such a varied group. I'm so excited to have you here. So I'm going to just dive into the emotional stuff, because why not start big, right? So I thought the first topic could be the emotional components of vision loss, and when you guys are thinking about that topic, thinking about how did you emotionally handle finding that you had a progressive visual impairment, what helped you move through that emotional journey when you were experiencing that, and in thinking about what might be beneficial for these parents to hear as it relates to the emotional aspects of having a visual impairment and or a progressive visual impairment.
So my vision loss was actually not progressive. Like I mentioned previously, I had developed a tumor on my optic nerve, and so from that point, it was definitely new to me and obviously to my family. So for me, it took a lot of adjusting and accepting and kind of figuring out how I could live my life without being able to see. So I started to, and my mom actually did a lot of the research as well once I lost my sight at a young age. And she found a lot of programs that she actually enrolled me into to help me to kind of just surrounding me with other visually impaired people. And one of the things I really enjoyed about those programs is the fact that every blind person that I encountered was on their own journey with blindness. And so it taught me that yes, you can be successful, you can be independent, you can do all the daily things like everyone else does, except you kind of have to adjust certain things to make it more accessible and adaptable for you. And so for me, a lot of it was definitely it was a difficult time, and I think not being able to kind of grasp that right away took its own kind of journey with me trying to learn how to be more confident and feel like I can accept my disability for what it is. So it was definitely a progress for me to kind of teach myself and surround myself with other people that could definitely help me and help educate me. So yeah.
Thank you. You guys can dive in. Alexis, do you have something to say?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. So when I was losing my vision, I was very fearful because keep in mind I was 10 and it wasn't until I was 12 where the doctor discovered I had a brain tumor, and I never really let it. Well, I just as well had a brain tumor.
Just bring your mouth closer to the mic.
Yeah, I never let me down. I still continued doing the same things I did when I had visions. Like I still ride bikes, even though some people might find it crazy. I've ridden scooters, anything really. I still go running outside. Don't tell my mom that. Oh yeah. And I still have friends that are blind, visually impaired. I try to do things to keep my mind off of it, and it took some time to accept it because I was reluctant to learn the services that were provided for me in the beginning, because I thought it was just a dream. I thought I would wake up eventually. But I don't let it affect me. Like, I play the guitar. I recently just picked up the piano. So just can't let you down. Look, I'm about to start my own business eventually. Almost completely blind. I can't see on my left eye, and I can barely see on my right.
And when did that happen?
When I lost the majority of vision.
Yes.
Well, I was 12. I didn't think I was going to become blind. I went with the mentality that I was either going to keep the same amount of vision I had, or either gain some more of my vision back.
Okay. And then what happened when you realized that was not at this moment? Because it could happen. We're always hopeful, right?
I can't remember exactly when I became blind because I was in and out of it. I was under anesthesia when they removed the tumor. Either I became blind on the 8th or 9th of June, and the doctors discovered because I kept telling them to turn on the lights. At that time, I was just completely blind. I had no vision left, and this was a day or two after my surgery. That's when the doctors discovered I had no vision left. I kept telling my mom to turn on the lights.
Thank you. Thank you for being so sincere. And Gabby, you too. Thank you for opening up and sharing these experiences with us. Arturo. Hi, Arturo.
Hi. Like I previously mentioned, my journey is relatively recent. So I remember like it was yesterday. Like I mentioned, I started noticing the change in my vision on my 17th birthday, the day of, and that just that was the start. The catalyst to a journey that would take months for me to get a diagnosis after several tests and a whole medical odyssey and lumbar puncture, steroid treatments, you name it. Funny enough, the very last exam was a very simple one, a blood test that was a genetic test. But the only hard part was the wait. It took about a month and a half to get the results back. And about 7 months after I had started noticing the vision loss, I was finally diagnosed with a hereditary condition that has no cure. And that, came to me like a frying pan to the head. Just because throughout the process, after so many exams, treatments, lumbar punctures, like I mentioned, I always kept the hope that this was going to be something temporary, that they were going to find something and, it was going to have a fix. And I remember the day the doctor told me, we found what it is. It's something called Leber neuropathy. He explained it to me. And the first thing that he said to me was, but don't worry, you can do anything you set your mind to. Perhaps not a pilot, he said, but you can still do anything you want. And me being stubborn, I thought in my head, why can't I be a pilot? I can still do that. And that just embarked me on this journey of acceptance. Emotional acceptance, and it came with time, and it came through a series of exposure of meeting other people in the community, in the blind community, and not interacting with them per se, but seeing how diverse their lives were, seeing everything they were accomplishing and were dreaming of and aspirations, and it got me thinking, if they're still capable of dreaming, why can't I? And that was the catalyst for me to also begin the support group that I previously mentioned, both the student version and the parent version, just because I really do feel that part of the acceptance journey is having that strong, a strong network of support. And very quickly, something that has been previously said today, not only in the panel so far, but in the previous discussion with Mr. Peters, is this belief of having family members that are always faithful, that are always hopeful, and hearing the same things where, oh, you're gonna get your vision again, and I just to add my personal opinions on that, I feel that finding acceptance is not losing the hope, and that's where people perhaps get it mistaken. Finding the acceptance is finding the reality of your current situation, and you can continue waiting and expecting for that miracle, for that hope. But it's being in the reality where you also recognize your current limits and how to fill in those gaps okay, yes, this is my weakness. Perhaps I can't get around like I used to, but I'll use my cane, I'll use my white cane. And when you become an expert with the white cane, then you can go a step higher than that and apply for a guide dog. And there's always solutions and these steps that you can take to fill in those gaps where you feel you are limited at.
Arturo, I have a question for you. Can you please tell them about your journey and with Vanjie and where it took you in January, please?
Very briefly, just to also mention, I started off the year in a grand manner. I was able to fulfill a lifelong dream of mine for as long as I can remember, since I was 4 or 5, and I don't know where the reason, the desire stems from, but I had always wanted to visit Italy. When I lost my vision, I thought that dream, that door, had been closed off forever for me. But at the beginning of this year, after a lot of planning, because it took a lot of organizing, preparation, because going to another country, a foreign country, is not an easy thing to do, especially when you are blind. You have a lot of preparation to do in order to be able to move around and do the things that you want to accomplish while you're there. But just me and my guide dog, she's the best traveling partner that I could possibly ask for, really. We went to Italy. We took a day trip to Switzerland. We even crossed the Swiss-Italian border, spent a day in Switzerland. And not only did I fulfill my dream, but it was a challenge for me as well. It was, a challenge. I told myself that if I could do that, then I could really do anything moving forward. And I'm not going to say that it was easy. It had its bumps along the road where, there was a lot of advocating I had to do, especially in a strange country where, sometimes the awareness isn't at the same level as when you're home, or in your community where people know you. But something that helped, and I just really want to mention this too, O&M is such a big, huge tool, and the cane itself, it's a big, tool and support device, not only for navigating purposes and mobility purposes, but also for identification purposes. When you're traveling to other places, sometimes people look at you, and for whatever reason, they don't put two and two together and don't comprehend that you are blind, that you need support in certain areas. So the cane really makes you not stand out, but it identifies you as someone who requires support when asked, when asking. So yeah, it was experience, a very surreal experience of mesmerizing moments. And I encourage you, as parents, to start planting the seeds in your children's lives, to start dreaming, to start having aspirations, goals, and make them realize that not even going to across the Atlantic Sea, that's not even impossible, the sky isn't the limit for us. We have billionaires going into space like it's nothing. So let's start aiming higher. Remember that low expectations result in, very low outcomes. So start giving them very high expectations, because I know that they will surprise you.
Thank you so much. Leisha, do you want to speak to this, or do you want to run to the next question?
I could say something very brief, because I know that my peers here have mentioned very valuable things, and I just want to put in that I also agree with Arturo. It's about the journey, and I like to say that it's not how high you think the mountain is, but rather the climb through the mountain. And for me, that was definitely something that I keep in mind, and I kept in mind a lot while I was in losing my vision in that journey, especially because I had to adapt to losing my vision and coming to a new country. So I heard a lot from a lot of parents and their questions on for their children to have that hope and be that hopeful. And I know Arturo touched on this. And for me, it was a moment of almost reminding myself that I just had to be grateful that I was here, and that I was doing something that I thought I could never do. So I think, even though it's hard emotionally for both the parents and the children, it's important to find those moments where you really stop and like enjoy having that vision journey, because that's what's going to get you to the top of the mountain, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Okay, so the next topic is what experiences both at home and in school have been the most or least helpful in getting you where you are today? And so we're thinking about, as we're speaking to parents, about things that are important for them to do and things for them that maybe is not as helpful for them to do. And one of like a possible like side question could be like, for instance, did you have household chores, and how did you feel about that? So that's the next topic, about what were some things that were really helpful, both at home and in school, to get you where you are today, and what were some things that maybe were not as helpful?
So for me, growing up, one of the things that I can say that I'm very grateful for is the fact that once I lost my sight, my family never really babied me. They kind of allowed me to figure out things. Like, yes, of course, my mom was very, and even today, is still sometimes can be very overprotective. But I think growing up, once I lost my sight, the more that she kind of saw me adjusting and realizing that, yes, I was okay with it, and that I could finally figure things out for myself, they never really like babied me. When I say that, I mean like they didn't try to do everything for me. They let me be very independent. They kind of taught me, okay, you wanna do all these things, so let's at least show you. We're not gonna help. We're gonna help you, but we're not gonna. It was helpful for me in that sense, because learning how to kind of be independent on my own really made it easier for me to kind of say, okay, yes, I know that I have their support. I know they're always going to be here to kind of help me if I do get to the point where I do need it. But also, my family's allowing me to kind of figure things out on my own journey, because of course, at the end of the day, for your kid, they're also trying to figure things out for themselves. Because, I think when you have a sighted parent, the outcomes for them are a little different than what your kid is kind of expecting or kind of wanting. And so you kind of have to, and this is one of the biggest things I will say, is that just really kind of allow your kid now, to be independent around the home, to kind of like, teach them things and help them understand how to do certain things. And as they grow up, you kind of will see that they are going to start building their own kind of setup for the things that they need. And so, yes, I definitely had chores, and I still have chores. Learning how to wash the dishes and doing my laundry and all the things that one does, that's another thing. It's like you kind of learn how to do all these day-to-day tasks that sometimes when you're on that journey of like vision loss, you kind of think, okay, well, will I ever be able to do this by myself? And the truth is, yes, your child will be able to get to the point of being able to do their laundry, washing the dishes, doing all the chores that everybody else does. And I think that the way that starts, it starts with you as the parent kind of helping them to be more independent at home to start out. And as they kind of go through their own journey, they will start to also help, like kind of show you like, hey, mom, dad, I could figure this out too, And I know that you're here to help me, and I know that you're here to support me, and I appreciate that. But kind of allowing them to kind of say, okay, let me try to do this by myself, because yeah, I think that that's really important and necessary to kind of build that foundation while your kid is still younger. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you.
I would like to add, what Gabby said is absolutely, straight to the point. But what I would like to add, also having a a mother who is fairly, just like I'm new to this journey, like I keep mentioning to you guys, relatively new. She was also, this was also a new experience for her. And it was difficult, and it still is, it's a process of finding that balance of, when I ask for support and, receiving it just because she thinks that I need it. I don't know if that makes sense. And, in the beginning, I would let her because, as a son, as a child, sometimes we're very hesitant also to take charge, to take our independence, I guess you could say, by the horns and, adapt to that. So, of course, I would, let her continue, washing my clothes and, cooking for me, washing the dishes, simple house chores like that. And it tied into, simple with the fact that, besides me being, blind, that I was also a teenager at the time who didn't like to do these things, right? But it's hard to show initiative on something that you've never had to previously do before. So, what I would, recommend parents is, start very small with baby steps. Start asking your children to, do something simple like washing the dishes or making their bed. And with these simple tasks, they will develop a pattern where, in the future, after a while, instead of you having to tell them, they will have the initiative and build on that initiative where, okay, no, you know what, I'm not just going to wash the dishes today, but I'm going to, do a little more cleaning. Or I'm not just going to fix my bed today, but I'm going to, organize my room a little bit more. And they start to show this initiative after that while. And just to end, because I previously mentioned to you my great escape to Italy, in early January. But please keep in mind that my mother did not let me go easily. It was still, it was, as much as it was a big step for me and a challenge for me, it was a huge step for her. And this is what I told her. I was like, Mom, I know it's scary, but I need you to trust that I've developed the necessary skills between O&M and independent living skills and, all of the skills that, you're taught throughout, in this New York City DOE, through EDS, and, through other agencies and organizations. So I told her, I was like, you need to trust that I've developed the necessary skills where I'm going to be okay. And that didn't change the fact that I had to call her like 3 to 5 times each day while I was over there, regardless of the time difference. I would wake her up sometimes, and she didn't care. But she gave me that trust. She gave me what I asked. She trusted me, and she trusted that I was going to be okay based on what I had learned and the skills I've acquired. So that's another thing I would say. It's a process. Everything is a process, but start developing that trust with your children, and yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add?
No, I just wanted to say that for me, in terms of high school training, what I experienced in high school, I think it was really helpful. Of course, we have been talking about O&M for a while, but O&M is so important, and I cannot stress that enough. Even though most of us think that it's like really not important when we get our mobility teachers in and we have to go out and we don't really want to go out because it's freezing. It's really important because I feel that, like Arturo took his trip to Italy, we can literally conquer the world if we know how to use a cane. So I think that was one of the things that I really think were really helpful for me. In my case, I had to have a para for longer than expected just because I arrived in New York and I got diagnosed as legally blind, and then I wasn't sure about anything. Like, I didn't know braille, I didn't know how to use a cane, I didn't even know what a para was. So it was kind of like a moment of me learning to be independent with a person that was with me for the entire day, which it's kind of a juxtaposition there if you think about it. But I think it was helpful because they knew when to step back. And I think as parents, that's really hard to do, but also really important to work on. Of course, that doesn't come easily because you all care so much about us, and it's so hard to see somebody that you love that has struggles on the daily, as we all do, go through life, and just standing there and letting them just do their thing on their own. But I think that's something that, although it's hard and it takes practice, like Arturo said, it's really important. And yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to move this along just because I have a couple questions that I would love to hear the answers to or your thoughts on, and we need to get to lunch. So, looking back at your elementary, middle, and high school years, what would you change so that you were more prepared for life after high school? And I'm going to tag on a little added thing. If you did have a para in school, would you have changed anything about when that para was removed and different things like that? So what was something that you would do different, or what was something that you would change so that you would be more prepared, and also doing a nod to the role of the paraprofessional in your educational years?
Sure, I guess I'll go. I feel like I should have showed more initiative when I was learning the services that were provided for me. It came to bite me in the rear end in the future because I'm garbage at first. Let's admit it. It wasn't until recently where I actually got better with technology and ability, but I'm still garbage at well, that's really all I'll change, but I actually didn't get along with my para in high school, but she made me more independent because she would never do anything for me. Like, nothing for me. Like, just take me to class and that's it. Wouldn't tell me what's on the board, so I'll have to become independent. I'll have to literally raise my hand and interrupt the class. Can you please read what's on the board? Because the teacher would just write and not say anything, just copy and write. Which is difficult because all you hear is the pencils. Yeah, just a pencil hitting the board repeatedly, and you're wondering what's happening. So, that's all that'll change really. I wouldn't really change much.
I have a question. I think what's important to note about the para situation is that you started to learn Braille in 8th grade, correct?
Yes.
So I want to give you a half a pass because some of the people had Braille since, right, Gabby? Since what grade?
Since pre-K.
Since pre-K, okay? So, the fact that you don't know as much Braille or as fast as Gabby, right, is partly because your vision loss happened later in life. So, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't have taken more initiative.
Like, I still know Braille. I can read it. I know how to read grade 1 and grade 2. I could probably read maybe 10 words per minute, maybe 15 if I try my best.
Oh, but what I'm trying to explain to parents is that the reason that also was part of it was because of when you lost your vision.
Yeah.
So every circumstance and every child is unique. And that's what I don't want you to say I'm garbage at Braille. I want you to be proud of what you've achieved, and if you choose to improve it, that's your choice, okay?
Yeah. Anybody else have a comment about your educational experience?
I would just like to add something that I wouldn't change to start off with is, just preparing very early on, well, not very early on, but after a couple months after my diagnosis, I started getting exposure to different situations where I realized that as a blind individual living in a sighted world, a skill that was going to be necessary to my survival was self-advocacy skills. And as far as preparation, preparing for college goes, that is skills that you are going to have to utilize very frequently you're no longer going to have a, TVI or a O&M that's, given to you by the school. So, now it's, as a student, now it's, your responsibility to look for the resources, look for the help, and have the confidence enough to speak up and say, look, I need this and I require this. And as far as something that I wish I would have done more of was, at that time in high school, because again, my vision loss journey began, very, very late in high school. Began, a little halfway through my junior year, and then my senior year was, my first real, full school year as a, blind student. And I felt like I was on a raft in a tempest. So I felt very isolated from my peers. So I guess, something that I, if I could go back and I would have done a little differently was, finding, getting closer to that acceptance to the point where I would have, stepped out of my comfort zone and socialized a little bit more. I feel like, as, not just me, but as, members of, the blind community, we sometimes experience that isolation where we feel like we're on a raft in this tempest, like I, described it. Where in reality, we're all in this together, and it's not to sound cliche, but, if you want to think about it being on this big yacht, so we're all on this big yacht on a calm ocean. That's really, that's in reality, our reality. So, that's another core reason why I started the, student empowerment group that I previously mentioned. So students get that social exposure, develop those, interpersonal skills, but really get to speak with one another. Because, when they get to once they get to college, that'll, be another really skill that they can benefit from as they meet other people, see what clubs are available, and again, what resources are available, so they'll have the skills to communicate.
Thank you. Does anybody else have a comment on that before we move on to the next?
Yeah, I wanted to just add on to that and say that I 100% agree. Because I feel like for me, now, I mean, I've always been a very social person, but I think, and we heard someone talk about this earlier, where you step out of your comfort zone, and I think that that is, you kind of find a way, and you find, I don't know, you just kind of build up these social things, and you kind of figure out what works for you. And for a long time for me, like especially in middle school for a while, I was bullied, and so for me it was very hard to really make a lot of connections with people. And so it wasn't really until high school that I started to kind of speak up and really introduce myself to more people. Like there would be people sitting next to me in class, and I would be like, "Oh, hi, what's your name? What's your name?" Like I would try to like turn around and talk to people, because to me I was like, I want to make friends, and I want to be able to build up like my own little, social awareness, and kind of learn how to kind of be outside of my comfort zone. And so it helped me a lot. And I think the times when I felt really isolated, there were times where I had to kind of think to myself, well, I don't have to stay this way. And that's sometimes really hard, because you think there's no friends out there for you sometimes. Like sometimes you're like trying to meet people, and it can get really hard. But I think the more that I kind of spoke to more people, and I'm all about networking and making new connections, and so that's like one of the things I really, really love, because you get to know more about other people. And I think that there would be people that I interacted with who were very kind of more shy, and I think that sometimes can be a little difficult. But I think definitely stressing the importance of figuring out a way to kind of get out of your comfort zone and expand your knowledge on just meeting people is important. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. So we have to get to lunch. So the last thing that I think I want to leave the parents with is a two-part doorknob comment. And from each of you, I'd love to hear one thing that your parents or guardians or immediates in the family could have done differently to greater foster your independence, and what should these parents do to basically set their children up for success? So based on your experience, what could have happened differently from your parents, And what could these parents do to set their kids up for success? So just giving a little bit of wisdom to the parents before you go.
Can I answer the last part of that question? Because I don't really have an answer for the first part right now. Sorry.
You can answer anything you would like.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. So I think one of the things, and probably not one of the things, because there's probably so many different things that everybody else here is going to say that can be definitely, that can be helpful. But something I will say is just, like Arturo said earlier, building the trust, and like I mentioned, finding ways to kind of allow your kid to express themselves as a kid now where they are, to kind of figure out what works for them. For me, now at 23, like there's different things that I can do for myself that I'm like, oh, I was able to kind of find tools along the way that I can use in my everyday life. And sometimes that can be hard because you may not necessarily know where to look. And so when I was, I want to say 5 years old, that's when my mom actually discovered Accessoride, and don't get me wrong, they're not always great, but that's okay. You kind of have to work with it because it helps me, and I'm sure it helps a lot of other blind and visually impaired people to kind of navigate and get around, to meet up with friends, and to kind of, go do the things that they can. Love that, thank you. Sorry. Is it?
Your mic is
Okay. It's back, okay, sorry. So yeah, I think it definitely helps to kind of, I can help my kid to kind of discover what's out there and do my research. And so I think the best thing, and one of the reasons why my mom, when I was little, she got so involved with like coming with me to the lighthouse, is because of the fact that other parents will sometimes know about the things that are out there that maybe you don't necessarily know. And so education and just kind of educating yourselves and educating each other and finding people and parents that you can kind of connect with is really going to be beneficial because, again, there's so many different agencies and services that exist that can really benefit and help your kid along the journey. And it really does start with you kind of figuring out what's available. So take the opportunity today to just meet all the parents around you, connect with anybody that you feel the need to connect with, and just take in everything and just be open-minded to the things that are available and the possibilities. So yeah, just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I guess I could go next. I think for me, something that I wish my relatives, like my friends, would have been more lenient about while everything was happening. Even though they were just amazing and I couldn't ask for better people to go through what I went through. I think it was the fact that for them, as was it was for me, but mostly for them, it was so hard to talk about me having a disability, and like kind of accepting that will come into the conversation at some point. And I know that for everyone it's just incredibly hard. Thanks. Thank you. The mic is not on.
It'll come back on.
It'll come back.
Okay. There we go. Thank you, Alarm. And yeah, no, I was just saying that I feel like a good segue into the next question is normalizing that, having those type of conversations in your household, or like when you're with relatives that are close, or like friends that are close that are always at your house, or like around you. It's really important to normalize that disabilities are normal and people have disabilities. And whether you like them or not, that's how your child is, or that's how your friend is. And I always have sort of this thing where I deflect with humor, and people have such a hard time laughing at my jokes because they're blind jokes and people don't really want to laugh. But it's so hard to also for them to accept that I laugh at myself and that helps.
Yes.
And that's okay. And I feel like when I tell other parents that, they look at me like I have 3 heads. But seriously, if your kid is deflecting with humor, as I like to call it, or just looking at their own disability in a new way that you didn't think about, just go with it and create this whole world with them and like have that imagination to have fun, because most of the time having a disability sucks. So having those moments where you just have those bonding times with your children is such an important part of growing, especially when you go to middle school, elementary, and high school, because it can be the worst end. And I know that my peers know that very well. So yeah, lastly, I would say that that's like one of the most important things. I relish a lot in the relationship that I have with my mom, because I can literally trip over anything and I start like just laughing and she will laugh at me. And I love that. So
Thank you. Who's next? Take us out, somebody.
I would like to add on that, as far as my personal family goes, something that, I wish would have been different was when I lost my vision, it's, like the rest of society, they automatically thought that was it for me. So the same thing I was thinking that, oh, my life is over, they were thinking the same thing, and it's understandable, but, sometimes you want that support, you want people to look at the glass, a little half full, So what I wish would have been different was for them not to have assumed right off the bat that I couldn't do anything anymore. So, like I previously mentioned is, do not give your children low expectations, give them high expectations, give them the highest of expectations you can possibly give them. And trust me, they will not only surprise you, but they will meet those expectations and surpass them. Because when given the opportunity and when, when you're viewed as an equal in society, you feel more confident and you feel capable of doing anything. To just end with a little, positivity here. I'm sure some of you have heard of the phrase, if life gives you lemon, make lemonade. Well, I put my own twist on that phrase. I like to say that if these are the lemons life gave me, well, you better bet that I will squeeze the heck out of them. So, tell your children that if these are the lemons life gives you, squeeze the heck out of them. Find the opportunities in the darkness, and no pun intended.
Do you have a comment?
Sure, I don't think I can beat that.
That's okay, I like to
I think something that should have been different for me is that I should never been as coddled as much. Especially since it happened in an earlier stage of my life. I was 12 when I lost my vision. And because of it, there's still some skills I don't know and might not ever learn, but we shouldn't say that. There's still more time for me. I just lost. I don't even know what I was going to say now.
Well, leave these parents with just like some advice, essentially. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if your children never want to do anything, always support them. Like my mom always supports me with anything that I want to do. And I actually appreciate that because there are still people in my family that probably still believe that I can't do anything because of my disability. But then there are other people in my family that still, they give me the chance to prove myself, like my cousins. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be outside riding bicycles, scooters, running, falling. But that's all basically.
Thank you so much. So, our panelists, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.